welcome back to the Law News Network. I'm your host, Amy Dash. You were just listening to testimony from Marcia Soul, the victim in the case involving Deputy Sheriff Frank BYBEE, who is on trial in the attempted murder of this 79-year-old woman. We are in a lunch break now of that trial, but I'd like to switch gears and talk about a scandal that is rocking the college sports world. And for that, I'm joined by a colleague of mine at CBS Sports Radio, because I do legal analysis there as well. His name is Jon Rothstein, and he is a college basketball insider. And we're going to talk a little bit about the NCAA investigation and multiple individuals, including 4 coaches, college coaches, who have been busted by the FBI, brought up on charges in connection with bribery, conspiracy, all related to accepting money to try to steer particular athletes towards financial advisors and agents who could help them once they reach the NBA. The problem is that they accepted this money. So, Jon, are you there?
I'm here, Amy.
So just give us a little bit of an overview. Why is this such a huge scandal in the college sports world? What does it stand for?
Well, I think everybody kind of knew that under the table recruiting existed in collegiate athletics, so that's not a shock to everybody. But I think right now the shock right now that everybody is kind of dealing with is the fact that assistant coaches wired funds through different accounts as part of obviously a scheme through third parties to not just secure commitments from players to attend their respective university or college, but also for their own monetary benefits. So this is a lot more than just obviously giving a player or a player's family an envelope. There's a lot more layers here.
Yeah, but what you said is interesting. So, because I've heard that from a couple of people, that this is a cultural thing that's been going on for decades at the very least, where money is given to these athletes to try to persuade them to go to specific teams, which is illegal in and of itself. So why do you think now there's been a prosecution after all this time?
Well, I think the thing we have right now is there's a difference in terms of the idea and the notion to commit bribery and to commit fraud. This isn't, again, just somebody going on an official visit and getting a duffel bag full of cash. You now have proof and wiretaps that connect assistant coaches with money managers and financial planners in an effort to not just secure commitments, but also have funds for themselves and their own monetary benefit that obviously they're not paying any tax on. So there's so many different layers here in those specific instances, and obviously, you know, what we saw yesterday was the fallout thus far with what happened at Louisville with Rick Pitino, but I think right now we're going to see a lot more dominoes fall after this thing.
Right, and so the head coach was put on unpaid leave, but essentially fired, according to insiders like yourself, Rick Pitino, who's a legendary coach at Louisville. And people from Louisville have not been charged officially yet, but there is some indication in the complaint that there were at least 2 coaches who may have been involved in this scheme. Can you give me an idea of what their level of involvement could have been? And do you think Rick Pitino is one of them?
Well, you know, CBS News, I believe, reported earlier today that Coach Pitino was confirmed to be Coach 2 in the ruling that brokered the deal with Adidas of $100,000 to secure a commitment from 5-star recruit Brian Bowen. So I think when you look right now at the scenario with Rick Pitino also was responsible for everything that went on around him. And one of the things that you have seen since 2013 is it is an NCAA rule that the head coach is ultimately responsible for his program. And not having control of the program has resulted in a lengthy suspension for a number of people. Larry Brown at SMU, Jim Boeheim at Syracuse, and of course Rick Pitino. So Rick Pitino committed this violation through Adidas while Louisville was already on probation for a prostitution scandal that happened a couple of years ago in a player's dorm. That ultimately is what led to his departure, because this was not obviously something that was done when Louisville was absent from what it had done previously under the laws of the land.
And so, just to update our viewers on what you're talking about, there was a Louisville coach who was with a bunch of characters, a business advisor, an agent, and also a high-level person from Adidas. And they were in a room, according to the FBI. It was videotaped, it was audio taped, and this coach was present while there was a discussion about Adidas funneling money to a player that they wanted to join this team, Louisville. Now, at that meeting, it was mentioned by a sports agent that he would call coach number 2 saying, confirmed by CBS News, is Rick Pitino, and ask Pitino to call people at Adidas and get more money for this kid's family so that he would go to Louisville. What's interesting about that is that after this student joined Louisville, Rick Pitino went on the air and talked about how shocked he was and how little work he had to do to get this mega recruit to join his team. So now there's question over whether Rick Pitino will be charged in connection with this, because the FBI says that they have phone records matching coach number 2, which you're saying is Rick Pitino, to a call with the Adidas person right after he was asked by the agent, allegedly, to call and ask for more money for this kid. So they have phone records of these conversations going on between the Adidas agent and Rick Pitino. And what's significant is that the Adidas agent has been charged. So he may potentially flip, right, John, and give up Pitino and say, yeah, Pitino did ask me to give more money to this kid's family. And then we could see Pitino charged in this scheme. And he could be facing decades in jail.
Well, look, I don't want to speculate on speculation. The legal aspect is something I'm going to handle to, obviously, people like you. I can give you the perspective from the college basketball aspect. I just know this. Louisville was already under NCAA probation. Louisville self-imposed a ban 2 years ago where it missed the NCAA tournament with a team that maybe could have went to a Final Four, and that wasn't enough to satisfy the NCAA. They still added sanctions. They still were prepared to suspend Rick Pitino for 5 ACC games for the upcoming season. And obviously now, Louisville as a basketball program is looking at, I think, penalties of epic proportions. I think you could see them have a multiple-year postseason ban. They're going to scholarship reductions. And, Andy, the other big picture thing is this ultimately tarnishes the long-term legacy of Rick Pitino in college basketball, who was obviously pound for pound inch-for-inch, maybe the best coach of the modern era.
Do you think that there will be a death penalty instituted where the program could potentially be shut down, not just at Louisville, but some of these other colleges? Miami is being investigated as well.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate again on a death penalty or anything like that. I just know with certainty that anybody who's been involved in this is ultimately, at the minimum, going to have a suspension for the head coach because of lack of head coach control. Lack of control of your program has been documented, and this is by the NCAA, this isn't by the FBI, by being something that is going to cost the coach multiple games during their conference season.
Right, so you're giving us expert insight into the NCAA and how these coaches and teams would be affected by the rules that govern them by the NCAA. But what I'm saying is, as a lawyer, I think Rick Pitino could be facing charges here based on my reading of the complaint by the FBI, because they have phone records, like I said, of him talking with this Adidas rep. And they have somebody now who's charged, the Adidas rep, who could potentially turn on him in witness testimony. And then he could be brought in because he is a public official working for a public institution that's funded by taxpayers. He could be brought in as part of this bribery and conspiracy scheme. It's very serious stuff. Now, what are your thoughts on some of these players that are involved? That, because you've got the NCAA insight here, they would be ineligible, right? Brian Bowen has already been sidelined for the season at Louisville.
Brian Bowen has been, ruled, ineligible for the time being, but some of the other players that are involved, I think, have a chance to likely not play college basketball. One of the assistants involved in this was Auburn's Chuck Person, who was obviously arrested on Tuesday. He, according to the report, was obviously involved with a prospect and giving money to a prospect named Austin Wiley. And for me, if you're getting Austin Wiley or anybody in his camp a sum of money, that player is ultimately going to be immediately ruled ineligible. So I think there's such a different level of layer when you look at, obviously, the people at the top, like we saw yesterday with Rick Pitino, and obviously as you go down the line to the assistant coaches involved, to the penalties the program will face, and also every player that's mentioned in this report could potentially be ineligible.
So now I have two important questions. One is, what about the fact that a lot of this money went through the parents? Is that an excuse under the rules?
No, I think that, there's a lot of times, unfortunately, that, when you look at things for all intents and purposes, that people are sometimes involved in brokering this type of stuff, and the kids involved, fortunately, don't really have any knowledge of really what's going on around them, which is unfortunate, but the truth when you cover college basketball recruiting.
Yeah, so do you think it's fair? Because when I was reading the complaint, I really did feel bad for not only some of the kids, but some of the parents involved based on the statements that were made and recorded by the FBI, where they're basically saying, for example, to Chuck Person, the assistant coach at Auburn, thank you for surrounding us with the right people. One of the players says to one of his coaches, whatever you're good with, I'm good with. So the whole point here and the whole basis for this prosecution is that these coaches abused their influence, abused their positions of power to pressure these kids to do things so that they could benefit, so that other people could benefit financially, but not necessarily in the best interest of these kids, because we know that some of these financial advisors that were recommended to the kids, the coaches didn't even do background checks on them. Had they done background checks, they would have seen that one of them was up on SEC charges for stealing money from professional athletes. So on the one hand, you have these parents and the kids who really are putting 100% trust into these coaches, and the coaches are deceiving them. Why should the kids be deprived of their opportunity to achieve their dreams after all the hard work? If they
I don't have an answer for that, but I can tell you that college recruiting, since I've been on this beat, has been a very dirty business, and now we're seeing why.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jon Rothstein. I really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.